Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our storage bid cost recovery and default energy bid enhancements tariff stakeholder call. My name is Brenda Marquez on behalf of the Stakeholder Affairs and California ISO. We welcome you today to our meeting. In today's call, we have a few panelists on our call. We also have Andrew Omer, who is also joining us. We'll be unmuting him and very soon, and he'll be the leading on this tariff discussion for today. We also have Amelia Blanky, Marissa Mercado, and then also Sergio Duenas, our storage sector manager for this initiative. Today's reminders are that this call is being recorded for informational and community purposes only. Any related transcriptions should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. As well, this meeting is structured to stimulate dialogue and engage different perspectives. We encourage comments to be professional and respectful. And then also, if you do have any repeating questions, feel free to be effective. We want to be effective our time, so feel free to submit that through chat, and we'll be able to review those as well. When asking a question, make sure you're able to use the chat window on the bottom right of your corner. Most attendees are joined via WebEx application, where you're able to see the participant panel and view the slide deck. So for those who are participating with us on WebEx, use the raise hand icon. That will allow you to be added to our queue. Those who are joined in only the phone line, audio only, you're going to press *3 on your telephone keypad, and we will be able to unmute you. But remember, for all questions asked during the call, we invite you to state your full name and affiliation and company title, so that way we know who's speaking. And if you have any questions throughout the call, feel free to submit them through chat, and we'll be able to assist you. And my event producer today is Silas. So today we'll kick off with one slide to cover the stakeholder process of where we're at, and then I'll hand it off to Andrew, who will be speaking on a few items of the slides that we'll be displaying on here for the example designed for the stakeholder comment on tariff language, and then next we'll have an example designed to explain incremental energy, and another slide to explain the design to explain decremental energy. And then we'll have an open discussion at the end. And this policy initiative stakeholder process, we are aware of a few items and milestones that we were able to accomplish. We also posted a revised draft tariff language yesterday, and I'll be sending that link on chat momentarily. And then also we just had a few milestones this month with the November 7th Joint Board of Governors and the WEIM governing body approval. Those documents are also being displayed on our policy initiative as a link, and also those are also displayed on the separate website for the Board of Governors to review those as well. But this time, I'll go ahead and test Andrew's audio. I do hear him, and I want to see if Andrew, can you also see our slides? We're on slide 6.
Hi, Brenda. It's Andrew Ulmer. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I can see the WebEx and the slides. I was wondering if you had accessible a copy of the revised tariff language that we posted on our website that you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and share my screen on that one right now. So let me do that.
Thanks very much.
No problem. In the meantime, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience, just in case I wasn't able to capture that?
Okay, that's a good cue. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Ulmer. I work at the ISO in the legal department, and I'm here with my colleagues, with Brenda Marquez, but also with Marissa Mercado, who's also in our legal group, and Amelia Blanky. I believe Sergio Duenas is with us as well. And my neighbor is with us too. She's, I think, 2 years old. So if you hear a small child in a swing, that's her. Her name is Sana. I'll say thank you at the outset of the call for spending your afternoon with us, and especially to talk about bid cost recovery, which is a challenging topic in the morning let alone in the afternoon. And I'm sure there are plenty of opportunity costs we're all experiencing as a result of being here this afternoon to talk about BCR. But what I wanted to do, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, is talk through our revised tariff language to address the recent decision of the ISO governing board and WEM governing body on energy storage and bid cost recovery, and take any questions with respect to that tariff language, but then also try to address a couple of comments we received during the tariff stakeholder process. And then if we can address any additional questions based on that discussion, great. But that's about the extent of what I wanted to achieve today. So hopefully we won't need the full 2 hours, but we'll see where the discussion goes. And Brenda, I don't know if you've been able to bring up the revised tariff language or not.
Can you see Silas from your end?
Yeah, I see the Word document open on my screen.
Okay, I cannot see it on mine.
Andrew, do you still see the slides up on your screen?
I do not see the slides either.
Oh, I believe I know. Curious, are you joining through Google Chrome, the browser?
Okay, well, I can probably manage without seeing them. So as long as the audience and stakeholders can see them, we should be good. So bid cost recovery always takes us to Section 11 of the tariff, and in this context, it takes us into bid cost recovery for the real-time market, and specifically Section 11.8 and 11.8.4. So that's where we are. The tariff language we're proposing in this case is relatively discrete. The language proposes to add a new subsection in Section 11.8.4 that deals with the real-time market energy bid costs for storage resources. And we've structured this subsection with 4 paragraphs. And what they attempt to do is just describe 2 conditions. The first condition is one in which a storage resource has an incremental energy dispatch in a market process. I'm sorry, an energy dispatch in a market process that's incremental from a prior market process. So an incremental 15-minute market dispatch from the resource's day-ahead schedule, a 5-minute real-time dispatch that's incremental to its 15-minute market schedule. And in that condition, we're proposing a formula for identifying what the resource's real-time market energy bid cost will be for purposes of real-time market bid cost recovery calculations. Second condition deals, instead of having an incremental energy dispatch, is having a decremental energy dispatch in relation to the prior market process, or no change in relation to the prior market process. In that condition, we have a different formula for identifying what the storage resources real-time market energy bid cost will be for purposes of our BCR calculations. The reason there are 4 paragraphs instead of 2 is that in some cases, we will have resources that do not have a day-ahead schedule. And in that case, the formula is slightly different, because the formula, when we have a day-ahead schedule, does rely as one of the values in the formula that can serve as a proxy for the storage resources real-time market energy bid cost. It is the resource's day-ahead locational marginal price. So And looking at this section, we've made a couple of changes since we posted it based on some comments we received and further review. And really, it's structurally restating a few words so that instead of proposed language that read real-time market energy bid, which is not in itself a defined term, we simply broke that up into two defined terms and framed it as the energy bid in the real-time market. And you'll see those changes highlighted throughout the section. We also made a change at the end. We included language that we shouldn't have at the very end of this section in referencing the day-ahead locational marginal price as a proxy value, but that's in a paragraph that describes a condition where a storage resource doesn't have a day-ahead schedule. So that shouldn't be there. That's something we took out. Otherwise, the remainder of the changes are really typographical and a spelling change in the section of the tariff that we included to link provisions for EIM participating resources that are storage resources operating as non-generator resources. So to make sure that we had provisions that linked Section 29 of the tariff that extends to EIM market participants to reflect that these provisions up above in the subsection, Section 11.84, would also extend to EIM entities. I'm sorry, EIM participating resources. That's the extent of the tariff language we're proposing and the extent of the changes that we're making since we posted this a couple of weeks ago. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions before we move on.
As a reminder for attendees, if you have a question, you can press the raise hand icon at the bottom of your participants panel or enter your question in the chat panel.
Okay, well.
Nope, sorry, I was just saying at this time I'm not seeing any questions in the queue, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. I'd like to just go through a couple of comments we received since we posted the draft tariff language. One raised a question about our use of the words real-time market energy bid and what did it actually mean, because it's not a defined term in our tariff. Energy bid is defined, real-time market is defined, but real-time market energy bid is not. And suggested that the language could be ambiguous because it could, in the case of a storage resource, mean a discharge bid or a charge bid, which is a fair point. I guess what we were thinking about in the context of this tariff language is that the energy bid in the real-time market is there's one bid. It has perhaps multiple bid segments that may span the operating ranges of the storage resource, both in a charging state and a discharging state. So we just reframed the language in that regard, but the question certainly raised another comment which asked, what exactly is going to happen in terms of your use of the energy bid in the real-time market or the segment of that energy bid when there's a market dispatch that has incremental energy that might flip a schedule from a charging schedule for a storage asset to a discharging schedule for a storage asset, and vice versa. If there's some decremental energy in a market process that flips a schedule from a discharge schedule to a charging schedule, and how to think about that in the context of this tariff language. And we just wanted to, I think, talk a little bit about that and see if there's any need for further discussion. But, again, we're thinking storage resources are submitting real-time energy bids in the real-time market sort of across a bid curve that covers both their charging and discharging range. And that, we'll use these bids, right, for purposes of calculating bid cost recovery. If there's an incremental dispatch in relation to a prior market interval, we'll also look at other cost proxies and utilize the formula that we're setting forth in the tariff. If there's a decremental energy dispatch, we'll look at other cost proxies and potentially use those consistent with the formula in the tariff. But if you think about a relatively, simple bid curve where you have one segment that's a charging bid and one segment that's a discharging bid, we thought it'd be helpful perhaps just to talk through an example of how that would work. And hopefully, Brenda, you're able to project the slides. I think maybe, we're at slide 3 and 4, but the example we had to explain the incremental energy was one where we posited a resource with a day-ahead schedule of negative 100 megawatts. So it's in charging mode. And we just assume that for the 15-minute market and the RTD, those schedules stay the same. But in the 15-minute market, the resource receives a schedule to discharge 50 megawatts. So, quite a variation from its day-ahead schedule. In that case, we're seeing incremental energy between the day-ahead market and the 15-minute market schedules. And if we look at it across the RTD horizon, it's 12.5 megawatt hours per each 5-minute RTD during that hour. And the resource is moving across its charging range into its discharging range. So out of that 12.5 megawatt hour per 5-minute RTD, 8.333 megawatt hours will be allocated to the charge bid, because that's the movement from its day-ahead charging schedule to 0. And then the remainder would be allocated to the discharge bid, because it's representing the movement from 0 megawatts to 50 megawatts discharging. So that's sort of how we would allocate, if you will, or calculate the bid cost recovery in relationship to the segments of the energy bid that the resource submitted. So it's a bunch of words. It may be easier to see with a picture, but the idea is that even though the resource is being asked to charge less, that is an incremental energy for purposes of our calculation of this bid cost recovery formula. And as it moves from its charging day-ahead schedule out into its discharge, there's a possibility of using two different segments for purposes of calculating the real-time market energy bid cost for the resource. The next example is really just the inverse of this, to try to demonstrate what we're meaning by decremental energy. So a resource with a day-ahead schedule of 100 megawatts, i.e. discharging, in the real-time market, the resource receives a schedule of negative 50 megawatts. Now it's charging in real time. And so the decremental energy moving from its discharge in the day ahead to 0 and then into a charging space sort of has, the same values as the incremental energy example in the prior slide, except a negative. And so again, there'd be an allocation, if you will, to the discharge bid segment, because it represents the movement across the discharging schedule from 100 megawatts to 0 megawatts in real time. And then the remainder across that hour would be allocated for each 5-minute RTD, would be allocated to the charging segment of the bid, because it represents the movement from 0 to negative 50 megawatts, where the resource is now charging in real time. So that is perhaps an oversimplified but hopefully clear way of trying to explain, which formula we'd be using and how we would allocate the real-time energy bid cost to the different segments of the energy bid that the resource submitted. I'm going to stop there and see, one, if my colleagues have anything more to amplify on that, and then see if there's some questions.
Yes, this is Sergio Dueñas. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for that overview, Andrew. I just wanted to note that in this slide, we're looking at slide 8. What Andrew described is completely correct. It's just, we made an oversight of not putting the negative sign here. But as you can tell, the values are basically the same as the prior example, just that in this one, it would be a decremental energy, right? So we'd have minus 12.5 megawatt hours, of which minus 8.3 megawatt hours would be allocated to this charge, and the remainder, minus 4.16, would be allocated to charge. And apologies for that oversight, but as you can tell, it's really the same example, just with a flipped signing conventions. But thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sergio. It's what happens when you let the lawyers try to do some math.
We do have one hand up in queue from Kathleen Colbert.
Great, thank you. Kathleen Colbert from Vistra. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
Hi. I think it's great you did math and gave an example. So thank you so much for that. And Sergio, thanks for helping to clarify. I'm doing great. I am still just a teeny tiny bit confused, and so was wondering if I could follow up with a quick question. So first thing I want to confirm is, so let's assume that it doesn't move from charge to discharge, and we're just talking about, let's say, an increase of discharge, but between bid segments that have different prices. This same logic applies, right? So let's say it moved 10 megawatts, 5 megawatts of that was associated with, say, bid segment 2, and 5 megawatts is associated with bid segment 3. The 5 megawatts would you'd basically apply the price for bid segment 2 to the 5, and price for bid segment 3 to the 3, bid segment 3, I mean, and then that would kind of be your final kind of composite value.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Yes, subject to Sergio's confirmation, I think you got it right.
Yes, no, that is correct.
Okay, great. Thanks for doing that one more time. And also confirming this only applies to limited energy storage resources.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you know, we have drafted this language consistent with the policy to apply to storage resources that are operating as NGRs or non-generator resources, which our tariff defines. I believe, you know, the tracking of that will probably, in practice, run down to, you know, those resources that are listed as limited energy storage resources in some of our systems.
Okay, that's super helpful. I know in the policy I didn't feel like it was clear that it was LESR because it kept talking about NGRs, and we have different types of participation within NGRs. Yeah.
Yeah, it would not apply, would not extend to, say, a hybrid NGR.
Okay, and like the hydro and the generic NGR model, it doesn't apply to that either, right?
So the generic non-generator resource functionality that we use to model some resources, no, it would not extend to that.
Okay, that's super helpful clarification. Yeah, no, I think that's it. I have a curiosity about what is being used for conventional resources when they're ramping, kind of similarly to the example I gave for storage. I realize it doesn't apply, but if that's a piece of information and the settlement team could clarify what they're actually using for the conventionals offline, that would be great too.
I think we can take that question and see if we can provide you an answer offline.
Thank you. I'm asking purely from the intent of both because I have both of those asset types in my portfolio and wanting to understand how BCR would be different in the scenario between those different parts of my portfolio. So thank you for the extra education, maybe in the training when this gets implemented or something like that. Thank you both.
Right. Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, and again, just for everyone's benefit, going back, we're not excluding the use of a storage resources real-time energy bid cost. That is one of the values we will look at in the formulas, but we are looking at other proxy values as well to reflect the storage resources cost of discharge or charging based on whether it is receiving or providing incremental energy or decremental energy.
We have another hand up in queue from Michael. Michael Volpe, your line is unmuted. You can go ahead.
Hi, this is Michael Volpe from PG&E. Thanks for providing the examples of the weighted average calculation. I was just wondering if this detail will be included in your FERC filing, or will you just make a reference to this being updated in a future BPM somewhere?
Well, in our FERC filing, given that it's a bid cost recovery issue and it involves storage assets, we recognize it's not uncomplicated. So we'll probably do some work to try to not just articulate the rule and argue why we think it's appropriate for the commission to accept it, but also try to show how the rule would function.
Yes, and I would add to that, Michael, that we're not proposing or including any changes to the allocation of bid prices through expected energy for the storage resources. So the expected energy allocation will continue to assign the real-time bid price to the corresponding energy along the available resource range, and we'll be considering the entire bid curve for both charging and discharging. It's really that the case here really is more so that decremental and incremental is not the same as charging and discharging, right? So different parts of the bid curve will apply to different parts of the total expected energy. I know that this sounds like a weighted average, but this is really just the same allocation of bid prices that we've done today. We're just clarifying, explaining how it will be done here. It was only in the examples that we did like a weighted average for demonstration, but this is what we do today. We'll continue to do, but for the entire real-time bid curve to be considered in charging and discharging. So hopefully this helps. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I will push back a little bit and say that it is novel because no other resource type has the charging range. So to say that it's being applied as it was previously is slightly misleading, or I mean, I don't know if it's worth mentioning kind of that there is this, you're operating now on a different charging bid curve versus a discharging bid curve, but it is different from what was done before, right?
What's fundamentally different is the proxy value we might use other than the resources real-time energy bid cost.
But also no other resource type would have this effect where decremental energy or incremental energy flips you on another side of from a charging to a discharging.
Yeah, I think other resources that aren't NGRs that can't operate continuously across that range, which is a great capability. They would have some type of transition time in all likelihood. So this is definitely something that, you know, is an operating feature of that non-generator resources have.
And Andrew, I think Uma has something to chime in with. So if Silas or Breda could unmute our colleague Uma, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Uma, you're a panelist now. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. This is Uma. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello. Okay. So hi, Mike. I just want to clarify. As today, we do get all the storage resources. We do get bid prices from 0 to the charging level and 0 to the discharging level. So for example, if the storage resource Pmin is -100 and Pmax is +100, when we receive the bids from Cyber, we can see the bid from 0 to -100, and we also can see the bids from 0 to the +100, both charge and discharge. Does that help? So there are no changes to the expected energy. There are no changes to the allocation of the bid prices through expected energy. We calculate the same as of today. We are going to calculate the same. There are no changes. We are only going to mitigate the price for incremental and decremental energy. Does that help, Mike?
Yeah. I just you know, I'm curious how it will look in the FERC filing, but I didn't know if it would be kind of, you would leave it for a BPM or just kind of explain as much as you can in the filing itself.
So those rules are in the market ops. If you look at the market ops BPM attachment C, expected energy calculations, you'll be able to see that we are not going to add any additional details with this filing regarding allocation of bid prices.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, Michael, thanks very much. Check on if there are any other questions.
Kathleen Colbert entered the queue again. Kathleen, you can go ahead.
Thanks, and thanks for being patient on this. Kathleen Colbert from Vistra. That was really helpful. Thank you, Uma. I have one more follow-up. So my original question about the differences, because I was struggling with the same thing, what's different? I'm kidding. Is the status quo, it's the same, that's the same thing we do. We take the bid price associated with the different segments, applies consistently to thermals and storage. All you're thinking of as like an impactful change here is the new floor or cap logic, depending on if it's an incremental or decremental change, and you're using the direction to identify whether it's the floor or the cap.
Kathleen, yes, that is
Okay.
That is correct. So if you have like a,
Thank you.
yeah, if you have a three bid segments, we allocate the optimal energy with a $10, $15, and $20. And each of these segments, we will look into, is it an incremental or decremental, and apply the price mitigation rules to each of these three bid segments.
That was incredibly helpful. Thank you, Uma, for chiming in. And as always, I'm always grateful for those of you, settlement SMEs, doing what you do. It's so just complex. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for the question, too. You're welcome.
Okay, we don't have any further questions in the queue at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, before we make our filing, I think we will try to post final language. I don't think it's going to look any different than what you're seeing in the highlighted red line, but we will still go through that step. We are working on the filing. We expect to make it soon. I expect it to be made before the end of the month. So hopefully that gives folks a little bit of a heads up that it's coming. If it gets delayed, it may get delayed, but at the moment that is sort of the schedule we're on. And with that, I think I'm ready to close. Brenda, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate the explanation, and we apologize for the technical issues we were with Andrew. Hopefully we'll resolve them for the next meeting. At this time, there's the next steps we have for this call is just if there's any questions, we do have the ISO Stakeholder Affairs at kaizo.com, and also we do have our initiative webpage, and that document we just shared on the chat window I provided. It's also posted on our initiative website on the first activity. But at this time, if there's any upcoming meetings, we'll definitely put those out as a notice. We do have meetings coming up next month, especially those folks who are following us with the Market Performance and Planning Forum. That's already going to get scheduled on December 12th. That'll be covering a lot of policy, release updates, and also our policy release. And then I forgot the other, Guillermo's analysis, so that'll be provided on that notice tomorrow on exactly what he'll be covering. And then, so at this point, we don't have any other meetings besides a few others, price formation tomorrow, and then also a few others. But at this time, if we don't see you anytime soon, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And then at this time, we'll go ahead and close the call for today. And I'll go pass it back to Silas to close our call. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you all in the audience for joining us today. With that, our call is concluded, and you may now disconnect.